Well, welcome in all locations. So Prescott Valley, that's you. Give yourselves a hand. Paulden, that's you. Give yourselves a hand. And those of you that are on the online family at the live gathering, would you do me a favor? Would you give yourselves some emojis? So make sure you're there. So Prescott, welcome. Super glad that we get to do this together. As you heard Kyle talking about, we do have sweatshirts, and you may be going, "Why? What are we doing?" And they're very intentional. I need you to catch that the wording on it is together. I don't know if you got this or not, but man, like God designed us to walk alongside each other. That the way humanity is created, we need one another. No one was meant to live isolated and alone. And we have a phrase around here we use often, better together. And if you remember last year, we had black hoodies, and that was really our first attempt going, man, is this even a thing? Does our church family even care about this kind of stuff? And we did black hoodies with 4 people on it. 4 people is one of the values we have as a church. And I see one right here. Look at that. You got your 4 people on right here, right now. We can clap for that. Let's go. But here's the thing. So 4 people is a value of the church. It's one of the things that anchors us, that God is for all people. He's been on mission to all people, and so we will do the same. We will give everything we have for people. And so when it comes to together is one of our values as well, that we're on mission together, that what we're designed to do is we're designed to do this together. And so in January, we're gonna launch a 3-week series that talks specifically about this idea of being together. Who are we? Where are we going? What are we about? We've got a lot of new family members in the last 2 years. And so it's just a moment for us to all anchor in together. And so the sweatshirt carries meaning beyond just today and you. It carries meaning into January for us, carries meaning as a church, one of our values. But it also does something else I need you to know about. The reason in having sweatshirts and kind of the heart behind it is that every sweatshirt that's sold, anything that is profit on top of that is going to our Upside Preschool at Park Collective, specifically to scholarships for kids and families that just need some help to get their kids in. And so my encouragement to you is it's Christmas, you're gonna buy a sweater anyways. Get yourself a sweater and do some good, it's beautiful. We get to lean into families, and here's what we know within the preschool. We didn't start a preschool just because we were like, hey, we should start a preschool, right? We know that families will go to a preschool, they'll never step into church, and it's a chance to love families and have them encounter Jesus in a fresh way. And so scholarships are important for that, and you can be a part of that. I need you to know something about next week. You ready? It's Ugly Sweater Sunday, weekend, Saturday, Sunday. It's a family ugly sweater day. And so here's the thing, you gotta come in an ugly sweater or else it's not a family ugly sweater day, okay? So you need to get yourself an ugly sweater. Some of you know exactly which sweater you're going to because you've been waiting all year for that news. So next week, and here's the thing, we're talking about joy next week. And the idea behind joy is just that there would be moments where you're just uplifted. Where you get to catch a glimpse of something. And so ugly sweaters are part of that. We're just gonna laugh together and do some other fun stuff together. So that's next week. Make sure you have your ugly sweater. This week, if you were here last week, we're in an Advent series, but if you were here last week, you got to hear 3 different communicators all talking about peace. Anybody who was here last week, how'd they do? Okay. Here's what I want to tell you. I want to say thank you for being a church that allows us to just try stuff, right? Thank you for being, I love that our family is a space where we get to just do some stuff that church doesn't have to be this specific, it's going to be this, then it's going to be this, and then it's going to be, we're free to try different things, and I love that because I believe that we have the most creative God on the planet, and some of what we do is there should be freedom to just try stuff. But here's the heart, that you got to hear 3 different versions or angles at this thing called peace from 3 different voices. And it's just beautiful. And then on top of that, I don't know if you knew this, but Pastor Ben, that was the first time he'd given a message on a weekend like that. And he was like, yeah, we can cheer for Pastor Ben. Prescott Valley, you should especially be cheering for Pastor Ben right now. But here's the beauty of it, right? That Pastor Ben, after he was done, he's like, man, I'm just glad it wasn't 30. Glad I got to start with 10. And I'm like, man, I'm glad I have 30 because I've already spent 10 minutes on my intro. So there we go. Yeah, just amazing that we get to do stuff. We are in Advent. And specifically, if you've been with us, you know that the Advent, the way it works, it's part of the church calendar, but specifically, it's designed for us to slow down and focus on the arrival of somebody. That's what Advent is, right? The coming, the arrival of that person. Right? There's anticipation. Now, obviously, we look back. Jesus arrived, and we sang about this morning, that Jesus arrived. And by the way, worship this morning, if you came in maybe a little head down, I hope your head's lifted. Was that not phenomenal? We have such an amazing gift and team and talents, and just grateful for all of them and the time that they put in. But if within this thing of Advent, we're anticipating the arrival of, and we're looking back, why? So we can anchor into our Christmas day, that we can anticipate on Christmas day, that our hearts are ready for that day. But we're also anticipating the arrival of Jesus. He's coming back. You know that, right? Jesus is coming back. And so what happens every year is Christmas is this moment we slow down and we're reminded. Yes, he came the first time, which he told us that he would. The second time when he comes back, we are now pointing forward to this arrival of Jesus that is coming. Right? That's part of our story. It's part of who we are. And Christmas Day is this moment that you and your family, that's what should be on the front of our minds as we head into Christmas. But here's the thing. Christmas can get awful cluttered, right? I don't know if this is your style of decoration. If it is, I'm sorry. I'm going to offend you, but this just feels really cluttered. It feels like too much. It feels busy. But it's intentional because in this season, if there's any season of our calendar that can feel busy and cluttered, it's Christmas. Some of you have jobs where you don't have the choice. Christmas just means you work more hours. Your whatever line of business you're in, it gets a little more hectic and you have to put in more hours. For others, you are, oh man, they're doing the courthouse lighting and then they're doing Acronite and then they got this and I got to be at all of it, and as well as all my friends' stuff. And your calendar just gets really full really quick. Others, you've had packages arriving from Amazon for days, if not weeks. And you sent half of it back because it got there and you're like, it's not perfect. It's got to be perfect for this person, right? And you're stressed out over the gift you're going to give. For others in this season, it could be family. Family's showing up, and it could even be emotionally just a tough time going. You're reminded of maybe somebody who's not there, and so the season can get cluttered with emotions, or you have that family member that's coming that you're like, I'm not so excited they're coming, but I get to love them anyways. And that can be stressful and create emotional anxiety as well. And so what we're trying to do in this Advent season is declutter all of that. Can we begin to remove some of the layers so that we make sure that when it comes to love and peace and hope and joy, that what we're actually doing is we're getting to the core of what those things are. We're getting to the root of what it means. Like this week, we're going to talk about hope. What does it mean when we get down to the root of what hope is? Because here's kind of what the grounds we're stepping out on is hope involves two things. It involves an expectation that you have, and it involves a confidence that you put it into. Okay, so I have this expectation, but there's also this underlying foundation that I put my confidence on for the expectation I have. For example, this time of year, there's a song or a movie that if you are like my family, we watch this movie every year. Anybody watch Elf? Right? Yeah, you just got to. Normally for my family, it's when the tree's going up. But the thing with Elf is there's a point when they are at the end of the movie and the sleigh won't fly and they just need a little more Christmas spirit. And they begin to sing a song. You better watch out. You better not. Wow, you guys are all right. A third of you, the rest of you got some catching up to do. You better not pout. Okay, 50% are telling you why. This is working. We're getting there. We'll ramp the rest up in a minute. Why? Santa Claus is coming to town. He sees you when you're, okay, that's weird. He knows when you're awake, right? That's a stalker. Just saying. So be what? Good for What? I like your enthusiasm, by the way. You realize what we just did, right? We taught generations. If you are naughty, Santa's bringing you nothing. Coal, maybe if you grew up in England, you got coal. So, right? But if you're nice, you get what you want. So the way this works, right? The way that we ingrain ourselves is we have a hope. The hope is that I get the gift that I want. And as a kid, right, you're sitting there and you're like, I got to be nice because if I'm nice, then I get what I want. What I've done is place my hope, right? I've got this expectation of getting what I want, and I place my confidence in my actions to get what I want. Now, that's one thing when you do it with Santa. That's another thing when you do it with your faith. And so what I want to talk about, I'll be real honest with you, I had no intention of going to this passage. And then last Sunday, my wife and I got stuck on I-10 for 2.5 hours, dead stop. And in 2.5 hours, God began to just pour thoughts into my head regarding hope and this passage we're going to look at. I've never seen hope in this passage. And so if you have a Bible, we're in Luke chapter 15. Luke chapter 15. Some of you may be like, hey, didn't we do this one like 3 weeks? Yes, we did. We did. And so I got a favor to ask you, because if you've been around church, something happens when you get familiar with the Bible. You start to check out. And so I'm going to ask you today, like I believe the Lord has something for you. I believe God wants to speak to you. I need you to stay engaged. Okay? I'll do my best. You do your best, and we'll see what God does in the middle, right? But this passage starts in a very specific context. The context is that there's an audience that's there. And the church people are all worked up because Jesus is hanging out with the naughty people, right? Jesus is hanging out with sinners and tax collectors. And the church people are going, Jesus, how can you hang out with the naughty people? You should be with the nice people. We have an expectation on you. Because what they know is for Jesus to sit down at a table, he's essentially saying, these are my friends. I accept this group of people. And so for the church people, they're all worked up. So what we need to remember is there's a specific audience that is listening. And he tells a few stories. The second thing I need you to know is this, that this story was made up by Jesus. He is not referring, as far as we know, to a family. He is making up these details as he is telling this story. Why is that significant? Because the details in this story are shocking. That God would include these details is absolutely stunning. It's extreme. And so as we dive into the story, you just need to know what Jesus is saying is extreme. We're going to read a lot of verses and we'll unravel them all together. In verse 11, it says this, Jesus continued, there was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, give me my share of the estate. So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all that he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him into his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. Meanwhile, The older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. Your brother has come, he replied, and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound. The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, look, all these years I have been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders, yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours who has squandered your property with prostitutes comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him. My son, the father said, you are always with me and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. Jesus tells a story. And the story begins with a father had two sons. And so instantly, if you were in that initial audience, there's expectations that you have. What kind of father is this? What are these sons about? Where's this story gonna go? And so the original audience, they're leaning in at this point. Now remember, the original story would have had a cultural context around it. And so as we walk through, we're just gonna unpack some of that. We're gonna take it apart as we look at the story. But the father has a choice because the younger son comes to him and he goes, hey, Dad, I wish you were dead because then I'd have my inheritance. So instead of me saying that, I'm just gonna ask you, give me my inheritance. The son is asking the father to break the law. What does that mean? Well, in this culture and in this context, when you got your inheritance, it was because the father decided it was time to bless you because he was about to die. And so he would bless you and give you your inheritance. That was according to the law. To do this would have been preposterous. So for the father, for the request to come, he's asking the father to break the law. The father, in turn, has a choice. What am I gonna do? What kind of father? And everybody listening would have gone, ooh, what kind of father is this? The father decides to give him his stuff. The father decides to divide it up. He doesn't talk to the older son. He just decides to give it. And as he's giving it, you can imagine the village around. Hey, did you hear about Frank? No, what happened to Frank? He went to his dad. What did he do? He asked him for his inheritance. No. Does he know he's still alive? Well, I think so. What did Mike say? Well, Mike, he gave it to him. Hello, just saying, that's not how we roll. That's illegal. He can't do that. Mike can't give him that. What kind of dad doesn't? What Mike should have done, he should have drugged that boy outside and put a whooping on him. But he didn't. He gave him his inheritance. You can imagine the ripples that have gone around the entire area. What kind of father doesn't uphold the law? And he gives his son his inheritance. The son then makes a decision that he is, in the language, it says that he is going to a distant country. Now, what's significant of distant country is he is leaving the father and he is going as far away as possible from where the father is. He is creating as much distance between the two as possible. That's what that language captures. And when he gets there, it says that he squandered. Now, that word squandered is that when he was over here and the father's giving him his inheritance, the father's taking things that are significant to the family. They're significant to the family values. They're heirlooms. They're pieces, keepsakes. They're things that can't be replaced. They're things that have deep meaning to the family. He takes those, and that word squandered is that he takes those pieces and he begins to trade. He begins to barter with who? With people who are not Jewish. He is with outsiders. He's with people that the Jewish people resented and called horrific names. And he is over here handing out family heirlooms to the enemy, so to speak. Why? So that he can get some coin in his pocket, because if he gets coins in his pocket, then he can live the life that he wants to live. And we're told that then he takes those coins and he uses them to live wild living. We don't understand what that is. Later in the story, the older son decides that he's going to give a little rumors that have happened about what the son was doing. But he uses his money, and it says that while he's in this distant country and he squanders the wealth, he ends up using everything, and then a famine hits. And it's when the famine hits that now this boy has a realization. His realization is, I'm going to starve to death if I don't figure something out. The language that we're given is that he goes and he hires himself out. Where is he? He's in a distant country. These aren't his people. These are the people that his people dislike. That word hired is that he glues his life, he cements his life to a Gentile, which was unthinkable. So what is happening in this story is Jesus is letting us know this kid is going to the most extreme that he can to reject his heritage, reject his identity. And over here now, he is cementing himself, gluing himself, which the way he went about that is he just started pleading. Would you please, please, please let me stay with you? Let me stay with you, kid. Just put me to work. I'll do anything. And the Gentile's going, I don't want you. I guess you can go out with the pigs. What's significant about that is he goes out to the pigs. This is another rejection of who he was. No good Jewish boy, only naughty Jewish boys would put themselves around pigs. Jesus wants us to understand how bad this individual is. Jesus wants us to understand that original audience, remember the church people that are listening? They're going, ooh, he's a bad son. This guy's really bad. Santa definitely ain't giving him nothing. That original crowd is listening on going, he has rejected everybody and everything that made him who he was. And after feeding the pigs, he begins to look at the pods. And we don't know if he ate some or not. It could be that he ate some and got sick. But it's somewhere in that process of seeing those pods that he begins to remember something. Hey, man, my dad's house, even slaves are treated better than this. And he begins to, as he's making his way back, he begins to go, okay, I'm going to go to my dad's house. And when I get there, I'm going to give him this speech. And part of his speech is, Dad, I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Just make me a slave. And as he's on his way back, what glimpse we get of the father is this. Remember, his father's a lawbreaker. He breaks another law, right? Because Jewish men didn't run. It's an embarrassment. But he's got his robe. He hikes up that robe and he sees that boy coming because he's been looking for him. And it says that he feels it in his guts. And he hikes up that robe and he begins to full on sprint at the boy. Now, the village people watching, they're doing the YMCA at this point, right? Like the village people that are there, they're looking on at this and they're going, ooh, it's about to get good. Dad is about to give that boy what he should have given him a long time ago. He's going to drop kick him. And the dad runs and he grabs the son and hugs him as tight as he can. And he begins to kiss his neck. And the boy's like, hey, Dad, because he's hugging him so tight. Dad, I just want you to know I've sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy. And the dad's like, sorry, son, you saying something? Hey, servants, get this boy the best robe. Can we just pause for a sec? The best robe, the boy had taken everything he owned with him and lost it. Whose is the best robe? The father's. Take my best robe and put it on him. Hey, get a ring. Make sure he's got a ring on his finger. You know why? Because in that culture, in that currency, your ring is how you purchased things. He's essentially saying, give him the best credit card that we have. You can imagine the servants going, wait, you're talking about the kid that just squandered everything you have, right? Yeah, give him a credit card. Oh, then don't let those feet go bare. You know why? Because those feet, if they're bare, he looks like a slave and a servant. This boy is a son, put sandals on his feet. And then he goes, you know what? You remember that? Remember that calf we have? The one that has been grass-fed only? You know, the one that's in open land? The best one we've got, we're gonna have filet mignon tonight. Oh, you know that DJ? Yeah, the one that really thumps? Get that guy. And then get everybody from the village and make sure they come and celebrate at the father's house. And so I mean, you can imagine the village people, when they show up, they're like, this is the weirdest party I've ever been to. Why are we dancing? I don't know. Kind of just waiting to see what the father does to the son. I think he might kill him tonight. Why are we eating flaming? I don't know. But I'm going to get another piece. It's outrageous. But it's from God himself. He creates the extreme story. It's like he's trying to get us to get something. And then, as that's going on, meanwhile, and by the way, anybody ever worked a really hard day at work? I mean, you just put yourself to that. You gave everything you had. And maybe it's outside. I used to landscape years ago. Man, those days when you come home from landscaping, you are tired. And this son's coming in from a day in the field. He's tired. And as he gets close to the house, he starts to hear, and there's laughter, and there's partying going on, and there's people all around. And his question as he comes up, he goes, what's going on? Why? And one of the servants says, well, it's your brother. But you see what's caught up in that question, right? What's going on? I love, there's another preacher that made this point. It's not mine. But he made a connection to the church at this moment. A lot of church people are like, wait, what are we doing at church? Who showed up? Why are they there? Oh, if they only knew. When he asks what's going on, the answer is in the Father's house, AKA church. In the Father's house, we're celebrating really bad people that have been forgiven by the Father and given a new standing as sons. So we had to celebrate. And in this moment, the older son, he becomes angry. And you get a glimpse into what's driving him. He goes, all these years, which even better, before he says that, he goes, look. Any of you got kids that told you to look? It's like, I'll tell you, look, right? Look, I've been slaving for you all these years and you never even gave me the skinny goat so I could have a party with just my friends. You know what the Father's doing when he gathers all those people around filet mignon? He's reconciling the kid to the entire community. He's making right all the wrongs. And now, here's the older son going, look, you never even gave me the skinny goat. And the father says something so profound. He says, you have always been with me. And all that I have is yours. Why? Because you're a son. I birthed you. And this is by birth that you have a standing. Now, some of you are like, oh, this is good. What does this have to do with hope? That's what I thought until I was sitting on I-10. And God just started to pull out these moments of hope inside of this story. See, when the younger son leaves, he's hopeful. He's got hope. You know what his hope's in? I'm gonna get the life that I want, the freedom that I want. I'm gonna be able to do whatever I want. But you see, that's his expectation. Underneath that is what he put his confidence in. If I get far enough away from those people and I get all the way over here, I'm gonna get the life that I want. You ever run away from something just to find that you're there? Right? You run as far away as you can. It costs you an awful lot of money. And then you get there and you're like, why is it the same problems? Well, you showed up. Right? And he's hoping by changing location, it will get better. He's hoping with the freedom that he has to make the choices that he wants, said every college kid ever, right? If I just make my choices. And he realizes that the confidence in the freedom and the confidence in the coin in his pocket, the confidence in all these things that he built his hope upon, turned out to be hollow. And so now he's left in a hopeless situation where he's like, I just need to survive. So what does he do to survive? He puts his hope where? Into the farmer that's a Gentile. Then maybe if I put my confidence in him, he'll just treat me, to find out that he doesn't. And it's in that moment of hopelessness that his brain, his mind goes back to, wait a minute, my father's character. I know he's a good man. How do I know that? I've seen how he treats the servants in our house. I know my father's character enough that if I just go back, he gets hopeful again. That if I just go back, what is his hope? That I can be a servant, I can be a slave in the Father's house. I know I've messed up. I know I'm bad. I know I'm in the naughty club. Like, I just know, if I get back. His hope is built on the Father's character. But Father goes one better. Because what does the Father do? He reminds him of who he's always been. How does he do it? Put a robe on that boy, make sure it's mine, and covers him completely. You know what? Give him the credit card and make sure there's some sandals on those feet. Why? Because he's a son by birth. What does the boy come back doing? He's going, Dad, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. And the father goes, I don't care, because you were never worthy. You're a son because I gave birth to you. And that's what makes you a son. Not anything you've ever done or will do. There's also the other character, and he's hopeful. What is he hopeful in? If I just work hard enough, if I just do all the right things, if I just do all the right steps, then my life's gonna work out how I want. He's playing the long game, by the way. If I just stay here and do good, then sooner or later, somebody's gonna die, hopefully the father, and I'll get what I want. He's hopeful in his own effort. And what does the father do with him? Son, you've always been with me. Why have you always been with me? Because I gave birth to you. And everything I have is yours because you're a son. There's nothing to earn, you're a son. But see, for both of them, they've got this hope, but their confidence is in something that couldn't sustain it until they show up and the father goes. And by the way, if you haven't made the connection yet, the father in the story is God himself. And it's how he treats every human alive. Hope is built. Part of hope is expectation and it's confidence. Is your hope in something that can sustain it today? When we strip hope away, man, let's just make it practical. If you are hoping for healing, what do we often do? We go to a doctor, right? So my hope is that I get healing, but my confidence is in a doctor. Can I help you today? There is only one healer on the entire planet, and his name is God. And sometimes God uses doctors. Sometimes he just touches your life and you're healed in a moment. But God is the healer. Don't make a mistake that when you want healing and your hope is in healing, don't place your hope in doctors. Place them in the one that puts your body together, knows you better than you know yourself. We do it with things like the World Cup. We put our hope in the wrong team and they disappoint us because they can't sustain the weight of your hope. But we also do it with, man, I hope for change on our planet. I hope for change in our nation. And then guess what we do? We put all of our confidence into a political party. Can I tell you that the only person that can change the hearts of men and women is God himself. And so let's not be fooled by putting our hope in something that can't sustain it. When it comes to your health and you put your hope in a diet, nothing wrong with diets, but the person who numbers the hairs on your head and knows the days of your life is God, not a diet. When you are longing and hoping for love, don't put your hope in a person. Put it in the person of God. I don't know about you, but there's not a person on this planet that hasn't disappointed me in some way in my life. Why? Because they were never meant to sustain the hope and the weight of hope. It's beautiful. The story tells us over and over that you are sons and you are daughters. How? Oh, not by anything you did. You know what that means? Christmas morning, your hope's in God, you just relax. All the expectations, all the weight of trying to manipulate to make things work, no, I don't have to. Because I'm a son and I'm a daughter. And that's enough. And for you today, the way we get there is by birth. What does birth look like? It looks like when you put your trust in Jesus and you trust that he died and you died with him. And when you were raised, as Romans talks about, you're raised to new life. What is new life? It's new birth. You're not the same. You'll never be the same. And for all of eternity, guess what's true of you? You'll always be with me, and everything I have is yours. There's nothing left to earn. So whatever you're doing to try to earn, there's nothing left to earn. I hate to tell you, you're gonna be weary like the boy coming in from the field. One of my favorite verses, it's in a different translation. It talks about, are you worn out? Are you tired? Are you burned out on religion? And the next part says, well, come to me and I will give you rest. Where's your hope today? Where's your hope? What's your confidence in for the expectation that you have? Because it's real simple. We can strip it way back and take ourselves. You should receive one of these on the way in, but we can take ourselves to the cross. When we get to the cross, we realize that everything we want in life is found in the sacrifice of Jesus that makes us new and changes us completely. I don't know who this is for, but you just need to hear it today. God is for you. God is not against you. And he proved it when he went to the cross for you. I don't know what mind games are playing on your heart today. I don't know what you think you've done that's so bad, but I do know this, that in this story that Jesus came up with all by himself, that son, the first son, could not have got further away from God if he tried. And the Father ran to him to kiss him. Maybe you just need to see the Father running to you. And the cross is proof that he did in the person of Jesus. So here's the thing with hope. You want to know what you hope in? Look at your actions. Look at your actions. Your actions will lead you to where your confidence is. And today's about recentering on hope. So the next moments are yours to just sit with God and, God, where's my hope today? And remind me of the cross that makes me new. So the next moments are yours and we'll take it together. I love that Jesus, before he went to the cross, got in a room with his friends and he reminded them, you are my friends. That he took something tangible like bread. And what he connected to bread in that moment was that there is a God who loves you so much that he would show up, that he would become one of you for all of eternity. He took on human form. When we talk about Christmas and we talk about God becoming human, he took it on for all of eternity for you. And Jesus is reminding them of the story. He's reminding them that he showed up physically for them. He's reminding them of that moment in Luke chapter 2 where she gave birth to her firstborn son and she wrapped him in cloths and she placed him in a manger. And here is that baby now grown into a man, and he takes bread and he goes, remind yourselves of who you are. Remind yourselves of what I have done. Remind yourselves that new life comes through me. And so he took bread and he gave it to them. He said, take, eat. He took a cup of wine, believed to be the third cup which was left untouched at a meal. And he took the cup of wine and he was reminding them again that your new life came through the blood of Jesus and the sacrifice of Jesus, and that alone. That through his blood you would have new birth. That you could sit here in this day and go, hey, I'm a son and I'm a daughter because of what I hold, what this represents in my hand. And so he took the cup and he gave it to them. He said, take, drink, do this in remembrance of me. God, we're so grateful this morning. Thank you for being a God who, when we were at our worst, when we were hopeless and we were lost, God, you showed up for us. You stepped in for us. You took our punishment upon you. Thank you this morning. Thank you that when it seemed like there was no way, God, you were the one that even though we didn't know how badly we needed it, you did. Thank you for being one that stepped in when we couldn't see it. And you've always been working. You've always been looking. You've always been moving towards us. Thank you for making a way today that we can be sons and we can be daughters. We're so grateful for the hope that we have this Christmas. We're so grateful for the reminder that God, you can sustain our expectations because you are loving and you are kind and you are good and you are strong and you are mighty. So God, thank you for bearing the scars of our punishment that we may bear your scars of life today. We're grateful people, and everybody said, amen.